So hi guys, good afternoon. I hope everyone had their lunch. So feel free to ask any doubts whenever you have on the spot, or you can write it down and later ask. Maybe it may cover while the session is going on. So from the title itself, overview on theoretical and practical understanding on economic operators. The word economic operators here, there are so many experienced people as well. It is, everyone knows what, at least 80% whoever is attending might be knowing, but it is not as simple as we think. So let's dig deep into it, okay? Right. So here we will be learning. Yeah. So here today this session we'll be learning about, first of all, how the economic operator concept came up. Does this concept present in the new Mdr Ipdf, or it is present from before? All that. Then we'll talk few definitions before going into the economic operator concept. Then we'll talk about the economic operators, who they are, what they do, how they are interlinked, who controls the economic operator, and QMS to economic operator relationship, verification, how to do by economic operators, and there is a model called independent importer model. Can it be possible? And then we'll talk about impact of Mdr and Ipdr on distributor and practical challenges. We will be finding some questions, and then last we'll be talking about case studies. Here we'll have 3 case studies for brainstorming, right? And later we will have question and answer discussion. Already this session I have taken in my organization, so few questions were asked, that also I have covered in this. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so before getting into the economic operator concept, I have kept this slide called major changes in Mdr and Ipd. So why I have kept is because, see, apart from having UDI, then reclassification of devices to upper classes because of the risk. Okay, so all that, apart from that, there are economic operators explicitly more responsibilities and a clear line. It's not anymore a gray line, it's a clear black and white line for all the economic operators has been mentioned in Mdr and Ipdr. So that is also, so this thing also is a new in Mdr Ipdr, that though the economic operators were there before this concept, but obligations, roles and responsibilities are mentioned here more specifically, clearly. Okay, so next we go to the slide. So let's discuss the concept, the birth of economic operator, right? So the economic operator regime under the Mdr and Ipdr is not new. It is based on the goods package as set out in regulation 765/2008, which is nothing but requirements for accreditation and market surveillance relating to the marketing of products. So which provided a template. One second, someone joined, yeah. Which provided a template for regulations for CE marked goods and established the new legislative framework, NLF. So Mdr and Ipdr strengthens and make it more explicit the obligations of economic operator with substantial overlap and repetition. Furthermore, the Mdr has already been in force since May 2017, so they had enough time also to have a good EO supply chain. Okay. Now, since 2008, the EU has gradually implemented these economic operator requirements in every CE mark directives and regulations that was renewed. Through Mdr, new rules and responsibilities have appeared up and down the medical device supply line, with the requirement that manufacturer, authorized representatives, importers, distributors, that is called MAID, functions as economic operators with distinct and sometimes overlapping roles and responsibilities. So in short, under the economic operator mandate, quality and regulatory compliance responsibilities has risen to new heights and are much broader than the older regulations. So these requirements have now found their way into the Mdr with a focus on compliance with the extension of economic operator responsibilities and obligations to all MAID players. Okay, so up and down the supply line coupled with the parallel responsibilities of PRRC. So here the main objective of this session is identifying one's rule under the category of economic operator. One is will help in understanding their duties to be obliged for in order to be in compliance with EU legislations for medical devices. Okay, so finding which part of the economic operator can I come into as a manufacturer, a part of you or a third party part of you, okay, subcontractors, whether I am eligible to be an economic operator or not. All these questions you will be able to answer practical scenarios also. Okay, so I'll have to discuss one more thing, and that is, yeah, so this is how the birth of economic operators happened. And for you have to know this very important guidance document called Blue Guide, which was there since MDD era. So this Blue Guide has explicitly described detailedly, very clearly about economic operators, along with other documents, guidance documents, and regulations. This Blue Guide you can refer to if you have any doubt further in future. Okay, next. Yeah, so here we'll talk about definitions. Yeah, one thing I forgot to tell you is in this session, I'll be not talking about PRRC. I'll be not talking about, that is person responsible for regulatory compliance. I'll not talk about Brexit economic operators or Swexit economic operators. That will be in the part 2 session in the next week or somehow some other week, because it is a very long session. I want you to first get clear idea about first one thing. Okay, right, coming to definitions, first we have to be clear with these terms, what they are. Okay, so third party countries, we most of the time listen. Okay, but what is third party countries? So countries other than European Union plus EFTA countries. EFTA means European Free Trade Agreement countries. So apart from these two entities, other countries are called as third party countries. Okay, so next is, so in this context, the EU defines a third country as a country that is not a member of European Union, as well as a country or territory whose citizens do not enjoy the European Union right to free movement. Okay, so EFTA countries are totally 4, and that is Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, Switzerland. Okay, now coming to other part, placing on the market or making available on the market, or another definition is there. You should know putting into service. These 3 definitions you should know like a fundamental thing. Okay, so first let's check about placing on the market, what it is. So as per MDR, it means the first making available of a device other than an investigational device on the Union market. Other than an investigational device means apart from the devices which are under clinical trial, other than those, or any device which is placed for the first time in the market, they're all the placing on the market. So note that the operation is reserved either for a manufacturer or an importer. So this placing on the market is applicable only for manufacturer and importer. Yes, of course, if manufacturer is in the Europe, definitely they don't need an authorized representative or importers. They directly put it into the market. So that is first time they're keeping. If that device, then it is called placing on the market by the manufacturer. Okay, if the manufacturer is outside the Europe, then authorized representative is there, then import. But importer is the one who is importing the device from the other country to the Europe. So that person is placing on the market that device for the first time. So manufacturer and the importer are the only economic operators who place the product on the market. When a manufacturer or an importer supplies a product to a distributor or an end user for the first time directly to the end user, if the importer is supplying or the manufacturer is supplying, or to the distributor, then from distributor to end user, then that is called making available. The distributor is called as, he is just making the device available on the market. Okay, because also this is the second line of event, second verb, That is nothing but making available on the market. The difference between placing on the market and making available. Placing only by manufacturers and importers, making available by the distributors. Okay. Then comes system. We all who are into regulatory of medical device, we know, but for freshers, what is a system? It is a group of devices which when combined together, then only an intended purpose of those devices is fulfilled. That whole gathering is called as system. It in a raw manner I am telling. Okay, as per Mdr and Ipd definition, system means as per Mdr, it means a combination of products either packaged together or not, which are intended to be interconnected or combined to achieve a specific medical purpose, right? So that is the system. Next comes is procedure pack. As per Mdr, it means a combination of products packaged together and placed on the market with the purpose of being used for specific medical purposes. I think you people have okay, could you give us, please give example of systems and procedure packs? Right, of course. And hi ma'am, are you also including EU Mdr or only Indian Mdr? So guys, as I said, I am talking about only EU Mdr and Ipdr, European guidelines, not Indian Mdr, right? Okay, next, yeah, I believe ma'am will cover, yeah, fine. Next is, yeah, example of system and procedure packs. Okay, so let's, this for example, system, an endoscope is there. For an endoscope, it has so many parts, right? If what is the intention of endoscope? Endoscope is doing diagnosis in the internal parts of the human body. If gastric endoscope, bronchoscope, based on the parts of our human body, the name of the scope will vary. So if it is in intestine, in GI tract, it is called endoscope. Okay. So for example, for diagnosis of our intestines to identify Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, it has to go into it inside, but for the physician to see what is inside, they need a monitor also. So monitor, the tube, the lens, all these combined together, they are called system. Okay, so this is an example. What is a procedure pack? As per Mdr, it means a combination of products packaged together. If they are packaged together, then they are called procedure pack. So for one procedure to take place, certain equipments are needed. Nowadays, surgical knives and all come under one set. Okay, you can call it as a procedure pack. I hope I answered your question, Savita. Okay, and everyone. So this is the thing. Next, coming to next slide, I'll go. Putting into service. This is very important. Listen carefully. Okay, as per Mdr and Ipdr, it means the stage at which a device other than an investigational device, a device for performance study, has been made. So performance, why I have kept slashes? If it is Ipdr, we don't say it as investigational device. Any device which is under clinical trial, in Mdr we say investigational, in Ipdr context we say performance study. Both means clinical trial, and they are undergoing clinical trial. Okay, so other than the clinical trial devices, if I put it that way, okay, has been made available to the final user, has been ready for use on the union market for the first time for its intended purpose. Now here we are getting doubt. I said making available on the market for the first time, then I said placing on the market for the first time. Now I'm saying putting into service. Let's dig into Blue Guide, what it is saying to get more clarity. Okay, as per Blue Guide, putting into service or use and installation. The moment of putting into service, this use and installation is added. So the moment of putting in service is relevant for some union harmonization legislation, means not all EU member states. Okay, only few. So few national legislative frameworks, few NLFs will have this. Putting into service take place at the moment of first use within the union by the end user for the purposes for which it was intended. So the moment that device is being used by the first user for the intended purpose for which it was made, that is called putting into service. Now, after the, for example, a device or a system has been dispatched to the hospital, it needs to be installed, right? It needs to be installed by the manufacturer. A manufacturer person will come, they will install, they will calibration, they will maintain the life cycle of the device. They come every 2 years or 1 year or 3 years based on the medical device type to check whether they are all good. So all these three things, correct, installation, maintenance of the things, servicing, all also come under use putting into service. So now you might have understood. So this and use for internet should be limited to products which have not been placed on the market prior to their putting into service, or which can be used only for an assembly, an installation, or other manipulation has been carried out, or whose compliance can be influenced by distribution conditions, for example, storage or transport. So this why this installation is important, as you clearly understand now. So putting into service is nothing but installation of the device, maintenance of the device, calibration, all those things comes under that for the devices which are kept for the first time. Okay, making available on the is by the distributor or directly to the end user, but end user cannot be called as making available into the market because they are not making available, they are consuming. Okay, so the distributor, and placing on the market is only for importer and distributors. What it is means you now clearly have understood, I hope. Next, someone have messaged. Yeah, fine. So making available on the market, I have already told. For the namesake, I'll just read for more clarity. As per Mdr or Ipdf, it means any supply of a device other than an investigational device or a device for performance study for distribution, consumption, or use on the union market in the course of commercial activity, whether in return for payment or free of charge. As per Blue Guide 2016 version, the concept of making available refers to each individual product, not the model of the product or type of the product. Each individual, they are saying in quantitative wise, not qualitative wise. Okay, so such supply includes any offer for distribution. Why this sentence is important, I'll ask this question in later session, because if there is a conflict going on in verification and QMS management, that's why. So as per Blue Guide 2016 version, the concept of making available refers to each and individual product. Such supply includes any offer for distribution, consumption, or use on the union market which could result in actual supply. Example, an invitation to purchase or advertising campaigns. The supply of products, whether for further distribution, for incorporation into final product, or for further processing or refinement with the aim to export the final product outside the union market, is not considered as making available. Commercial activity is understood as providing goods in a business-related context. So this is very clear. When you say not make this as making available the market or not, if there are, I'll just give an example. For example, a manufacturer is there outside the European Union, and they have just used Europe. They have to ship it to, for example, Australia. They are from South America. Okay, they do not have a route. They have to stay at one place for easy transit and easy supply of the as per the demand in which country what all. Maybe they have multiple countries to supply. So they decided to put their devices few quantity into European Union for easy dispatch of the device to other countries, but they are not supplying into Europe. They are just using it as a storage area. Now then that is not called as manufacturer making into available in the market into Europe for the first time. They're actually not supplying to Europe. They are not called as any economic operator. They're using the services for their commercial activity. So this is the conclusion from that. Next. So here are certain situations where you will say this placing on the market is considered not to take place, where didn't kept here in the slide, but I'll just read out. Manufacturers manufactured for one's own use, custom-made devices are not called as placing on the market if they are using for their own purpose. Some union harmonization legislations, however, covers products manufactured for own use in its scopes. So first manufacturer who is outside of the EU has to go through the regional regulations to consider whether they will be considered as an economic operator, because or they are considered as placing on the market for following situations or not. If yes, then they will become an economic operator. If not, they will not. This is specific for manufacturers. So first point is, if manufactured for one's own use, you can't say, see guys, this will quit every 40 minutes, you have to join. This is one drawback of free Zoom meeting call. Okay. So second is brought by a consumer in a third country while physically present in that country and brought by the consumer into the European Union for the personal use of that person. For example, we are bringing gold from Dubai. If we go to trip for Dubai, gold price is short, less. So we just buy 1 or 2 quantity of gold and we get it back to India for our own purpose. That is not that is for our individual purpose, not for business purpose, right? So then, like this, similarly, replace that gold with the device. So then we can say, yeah, I am not an economic operator. I am not an importer. I am using it for my own purpose. So that is the second point. Transferred from the manufacturer in a third country to an authorized representative in the union, whom the manufacturer has engaged to ensure that the product complies with the union harmonization legislation. So, for example, if the manufacturer transferred from the manufacturer in a third country, if they are, that is outside the EU EFTA country, if it is manufactured by whom to an, and it is sent to an authorized representative of the union, whom the manufacturer has engaged to ensure that the product complies with the union, then they are called indirectly economic operators, right? Next, manufactured in member state with the view to exporting it to a third country, then they are also not placing in the market. They are manufacturing in the Europe to dispatch to other countries. So that is not one of the economic operators. Okay, so that is placing on the market. Sorry, they are not placing on the market. Next, transferred for testing or validating pre-production units. They are just if the device is just kept in the Europe for testing purposes, not to place in the market, then also they are called just placing on the market. They are not placing on the market. Then displayed or operated under controlled conditions at trade fairs for exhibition purpose. If the device is for the first time kept into that European Union, any country for exhibition purpose, that time also they are not considered as placing on the market, because they are not doing business with that, they are advertising. After advertising, if they come into agreement and they start manufacturing and supplying to Europe, then that is called placing on the market. So in the stocks of the manufacturer or the importer, where the product is not yet made available, that is when it is not being supplied for distribution, consumption or use, unless otherwise provided in the application union harmonization legislation. So this was all the points where we will consider placing on the market is yes or no. Okay, next come to another definition, customs free. It's customs free and or customs union. Yeah, we know what is custom, it means a tax. So, but why I'm mentioning is I want to show a fact here. In the case of European Union, this means there are no custom duties to be paid when goods are transported from one European country to another. The customs duty from goods imported into the EU makes up around 14% of the total EU budget as part of its traditional owned resources. 14%, whole of that percent of the budget comes from this tax evasion. In practice, custom union means that the custom authorities of all EU countries work together as if they were one country. So they apply the same tariffs to the goods imported into their territory from the rest of the world and apply no tariffs internally, right? This is for freshers to get to know what it is, what it means, and how the flow of supply of products goes in. Fully refurbishing, what does this mean? For the purpose of the definition of manufacturer, means the complete rebuilding of a device already which is placed on the market or put into service, or making of new device from used device, making of new device from the used device to bring it into conformity with this regulation, combined with the assignment of new lifetime to the refurbished device. If it has been made for the first time from the raw material, that was not a refurbished device, already used device, its lifetime is gone, you are making it new again and following all the regulations, QMS, validation, testing, etc. Then it is called refurbished device. Next, you have product realization. What it means? It describes the collection of processes involved in product's life cycle. All the stages of medical device life cycle are there, that is the product realization, from its conception to its completion. What are those? That is planning, design, development, production, and service provision. So products realization for medical devices defined even in the QMS ISO 13485-2016 as a mandatory requirement for a quality management system. So see, this is product relation, that is, you have to comply with all the life cycles of the whole life cycle of the medical device. So competent authorities, what it is, in the case of medical device, Article 101 regulation of 2017-745 MDR indicates that each member state shall designate a competent authority that will be responsible for implementation of the regulation. What are those? MDR or Ipdf. The duty is one member state will have one of the member of the competent authority representing that country. So they will make sure that all the Mdr Ipdf regulations are in compliance. So these competent authorities will be entrusted with power, resources, equipments, knowledge, even financial resources and power means money, for the proper performance of their task in accordance to this regulation. So the member state shall communicate the names and contact details of the competent authorities to the European Commission, which shall publish the list of competent authorities. Okay, you should know this, at least basic one. Next. So before getting into the about economic operator concept, I want you guys to go through, see this table first. What is this table tells about everything of Mdr Fdr, where all the economic operator information is present. And while we go to the session forward, I may be taking names in number of article number instead of the name, the title of the article. So, and this should be known to everyone. So like Article 10 of Mdr and Ipd talks about general obligations of the manufacturer, that is roles and responsibilities of manufacturer. 10, 11 and 12 about authorized representative, roles and responsibilities, and what if the authorized representative change, what are their roles and responsibilities. Then 13 talks about importer, 14 talks about distributors, roles and responsibilities, 15 not there, 16 talks about the cases in which the obligations, the roles and responsibilities of the manufacturers apply to importers, distributors, or other persons. So these are the main articles: 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. 15, you skip that. Then we come to Article 22, first and third section, talks about system and procedure packs. 25 and 22, Article 25 of Mdr and Article 22 of Ipd talks about identification within the supply chain. Then electronic system for registration of economic operator, about UDAMET, Article 30 and 27 of Ipd. Then at Mdr 31, Ipd 28 talks about registration of manufacturers, authorized representative, and importer. So first 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, till there you for now you remember, because when I'm talking about the other things, I may talk about the numbers. Now, who are economic operators? Okay, what if the device is a single time use type of device and which does not require installation? Yeah, if it does not require installation, then this definition, placing this service and installation part will not come. This putting into service will not come. directly placing on the market and making available on the market. These two will come. Right? Next, who are economic operators? By now, you all know made parties. Made, M for manufacturer, A for authorized representative, I for importer, D for distributor. Most of the time, when asked about economic operators, we say made parties. But apart from that, we have other two parties also in Mdr and Ipdr, and they are device combinators or system integrators, sterilizer company or procedure pack sterilizers. Okay, so sterilizer as well as device combinators, these are the other two newly added parties which are called as economic operator as per Mdr. So these two entities, they decide to do that by themselves, and most of the time when asked about economic operator, we hear most of the time about these made parties. So we have this provision of system and procedure packs in the MDDD. So however, in new regulation, this party that makes the package and also the party that sterilizes the procedure packs, they are also considered as economic operators. So these two entities, they decide to do that by themselves and not asking permission to the original manufacturers. Then only they can be considered as economic operators. So if a party is there who is an agreement with manufacturer, manufacturer says, hey man, do packaging of my product, do sterilization for my product. If they give them the service to be done, those two parties will not be considered as economic operators until they do it for them by themselves, not because of the manufacturer. For their own business purposes, if they do, those two parties will be considered as economic operator. So we can say not a service provided of a provider of a manufacturer be called as an economic operator. So I'll tell you one scenario for our better understanding, right? So let's say if I am a manufacturing company, okay, and if I manufacture the product and send that to a different company that is just doing the packaging with all the information inside, then that company can be called as an economic operator, because the economic operator system, how it works is that it makes available on the market or places on the market. Then only they can be called as economic operator. So if a company provides a service for you like storage, packaging, repackaging like that, that's not considered an economic operator unless when you're dealing with a situation where somebody in the supply chain is repackaging, but for their own purposes, not for the manufacturers as a service provider as per Article 16. What Article 16 tells? See, cases in which the obligations of the manufacturers applies to importers, distributors, or other persons. Okay, so normally service provider is never an economic operator. Also, there you got an exception where you are dealing with fulfillment service providers, where you are doing more than just moving boxes. So what are fulfillment service provider? In the coming slide we will see. So apart from just moving the boxes, then you are not considered as economic operator. Okay, so the activities of fulfillment service provider goes beyond that to those of parcel and parcel service providers that provides clearance services, sorting, transport, delivery of parcels. So the complexity of the business model they offer makes fulfillment service provider a necessary element of the supply chain, and therefore they can be considered as taking part in the supply chain of product and subsequently in placing it in the market. So thus, please mute yourself. So thus, where fulfillment service providers provide services, as I have mentioned now, which goes beyond those of parcel and service providers, they should be considered as distributors and should fulfill the corresponding legal responsibilities, right? So next. Now comes to definition of economic operators. Now the definition terms which we have learned just before, how they come into our main economic operator definitions, just observe. Okay, what is manufacturer? A natural or a legal person who manufactures or fully refurbishes a device or has a device designed, manufactured, or fully refurbished and markets that device under its name or trademark, then they are called as manufacturer. So refurbish, what it means, we know. Authorized representative, a natural legal person established within the union who has received and accepted a written mandate from the manufacturer located outside the union to act as a manufacturer's behalf in relation to specified tasks with regard to latter's obligations under this regulation. So we understood, right? Importer, a natural or legal person established within the union that places the device from a third country to the union market. Distributor, a natural or a legal person in the supply chain other than the manufacturer importer that makes the device available on the market up until the point of putting into the service are called distributor. So device combinator system integrators, the fifth party. The party that combines devices that bear CE mark with other than devices, an IVD device that bears the CE marking, compliant products used within a medical procedure with presence on the pack is justified. So if your company performs such an activity, even if they're not manufacturing these devices, are considered as an economic operator. So sterilizer company or procedure pack sterilizer, the party who sterilizes the system and procedure packs with the purpose of placing them on the market, not for their individual use, but for business purposes for the first time in the market. Then also that party which sterilizes or procedure pack sterilizes, they are called these. Next. Fulfillment service provider. Here you will learn more this new term. What does that mean? Fulfillment houses. See guys, for just 15 more minutes, it may be theoretical. Afterwards, it will be all case studies. So don't worry. Fulfillment house represents a new business model generated by e-commerce. That is online. Nowadays, people are supplying their devices online as well. So can they be considered as an economic operator? For that question, this is the answer. So fulfillment houses represent a new business model generated through online e-commerce business. Products offered by online operators are generally stored in fulfillment houses, warehouses, right? Located in the EU to guarantee their quick delivery to EU consumers. So these entities that provide service to other economic operators, they store product and further to receipt of orders. They package the products, ship them to consumer, that is logistics. Okay. Sometimes they also deal with returns. So there is a wide range of operating scenarios for delivering this fulfillment services, consumer services. Some fulfillment houses offer, along with these services listed, of a distributor, while others only cover them partially. So their size, scale also differ from global operators to micro businesses. So even regulation on 2019-1020 of the EU Parliament, which that is about market surveillance and compliance of the product, also confirms this, that these fulfillment service providers can also become economic operator only when they are not only just doing logistics. Apart from them, they're really doing directly to the consumers. Part of the distributor activity they're doing, they will be considered as economic operators, even if it is online. So how then the authorities will check whether they are in compliance with the regulation? So for that, such compliant can be, how it can be done, can be physically verified by the responsible authorities when the products are in their jurisdiction, at the soonest at the customs. In addition, products offered by online operators are generally stored in the fulfillment house, which is located in the EU, to guarantee their quick delivery, right? So accordingly, products stored in those fulfillment houses they can be checked by the authorities to have, which has to be supplied for distribution, consumption, or use in the EU market. When an online operator uses a fulfillment house in the EU products are in distribution phase of the supply chain. So like this, the verification can be done. Or the online operator can oblige to all the distributor activities, like having a complaint registry with them, having vigilance. That our responsibilities will just talk in a minute. So next is necessary in order to market. This term is used in Article 16. What does that mean? Just overall view. So this is in regard to Blue Guide. Blue Guide has given more very huge, very nice information about economic operator, but that doesn't mean that everything is there in that. It took me a very long time to research and find answers to all my questions. Okay, so but that is very good. Blue Guide is very good. So in Article 16, it refers to conditions that should be met in order to market the device in the member state. Whether a relabeling or repackaging activity is necessary should be analyzed on a case-by-case basis. Like, for example, as mentioned in the above conditions, which can be not exhaustive list. Now, national language requirement for device information supplied by the manufacturer. As per the Mdr, you have to put labels as a regional language. So that national language requirements, if that is converted, translated, and put the IFU put into the package, and that is a part of manufacturer agreement with third party, or they are doing by themselves. They are all the activities called necessary activities to market the device in the market, into the market. Okay, so the need to supply, that is one point. The need to supply the new package specific number of devices different from the number of devices supplied to the original package by the manufacturer for some reason. Same, because of language requirements, the packaging has to be changed. That is a necessary activity. Third, providing healthcare system with pack sizes that are suitable for the need of the health institution in that member state. Yes, we are providing a big pack in which certain units are there. That pack size, that has changed. That is a necessity. National practices authorized only a certain packaging sizes. Remember, different member states have different packaging requirements also. So based on that, the pack size also varies. So that activity is also a necessary activity. Okay, so health insurance rules, making the reimbursement of medical expenses depending on the size of the packaging. Yeah, health insurance reimbursement rule. If something happens, how much one manufacturer has to repay for the consumer, that also is need to be well defined. That is also a necessary activity for the manufacturer. Well established medical prescription practices, that is also necessary. So all these are necessary. When we say necessary in order to market the device, all these things comes under. Just remember it always in your head. Now coming to link between the economic operators. Okay, now we have talked about made parties and other parties, but how they are linked in this supply chain flow. And the other, which is in the right and left side, you can see manufacturer places a non-imported device on the market, then it is a pure manufacturer. If authorized representative is there, it is indirect. Importer, manufacturer to importer, importer to distributor, distributor to end user. This is the supply chain. Here, placing on the market is for manufacturer, importer is being stressed. Distributor makes available on the market, and this clearance, logistics, storage provider, all are either can be importer or distributor. This category of the things it will cover. System integrator, package sterilizers has general economic operator obligations, which we will see in a minute. Next, now this is the overview of obligations of all economic operators. Wherever the blue font is there, they are the common responsibilities of each party. Like registering into the UDAMED database is a responsibility of the manufacturer, authorized representative, importer. Okay, similar is the post-marketing surveillance requirement. It is the obligation for all the four parties. Okay, then UDI labeling, it is only for first three parties: manufacturer, authorized representative, importer. Right? So like this, blue, wherever font is there, either they are overlapping ones. Okay, so for manufacturer, this is just a short view. Technical documentation and design and development, manufacturing, assembly, these are only for manufacturer. But if you say storage and distribution, correction actions, handling, these are all applies to manufacturer, importer, distributor. And here I will confirm one thing: authorized representative is a party which doesn't contribute in the physical supply of the device in the supply chain. They just make sure that all the other parties are in compliance with the regulations. They are following the regulation in order to supply their medical device physically in the supply chain as per the regulations. So authorized representative is like a, you can say, like a judge, is observing things. Okay. Next, this is a common flowchart which many of us might have seen in the Google. So here the drawback is I can't show all the regulations in this flowchart. Here you can say overlap of things. This only like what importer is checking on manufacturer, what distributor is checking on importer, and all. So I have made some different pattern so that all the regulatory requirements are met, and that is easy also to understand. So I hope it is visible. I am just zooming in. So here few color fonts are there: green, yellow, cream color, right? So each font color represent one thing. If it is cream color, that means for obligations which are common, obligation means roles and responsibilities. Okay, so those responsibilities which are common for all economic operators, that are mentioned in cream color. Those which are except distributor, it is applicable for all, that is mentioned in green color. Those which doesn't have any color, that is it for that independent party only. Okay, and those which have yellow fonts, which are yellowed, like 13, 14, 15, they are the obligations for economic operators whose devices are legacy devices. Okay, so this is how I have mentioned, so that you will not be confused. While you're reading itself, you will understand, okay, this is also covered. Green means except distributor for all economic operators. This same function is there, that responsibility. Okay, so let's go one by one, and indirectly, no need to describe it. It is very easy, a simple way I have written in the regulation. It is written in more complex way. First, obligations of the manufacturer. So first point is they have to make sure that they are in compliance with Mdr. Very simple. Second, establish, document, implement, and maintain a system of risk management, market surveillance activities. Third, conduct clinical evaluation and post-market clinical follow-up. Maintain technical documentation for the devices as per EU Mdr, including post-market surveillance technical documentation. Fifth, get declaration of conformity, CE marking certificate. Okay. Sixth, the manufacturer or authorized representative for custom-made devices shall draw statements containing following information, like name and address of the manufacturer, manufacturing site information, data allowing identification of device, statement that device is intended exclusive for this particular patient population, demography they have to mention. Okay, if applicable, mention about medicinal substance if something added, or human blood or plasma tissue, etc. For these are all requirements for custom-made device. And the green font, it says these all the documents should be maintained for 10 years for normal devices, and for implantable devices minimum 15 years. That means for all economic operators except distributor, it applies. Next, this way it will be easy for us, everyone, to remember. Manufacturer should undertake 6.2. Manufacturer should undertake to keep available competent. Yeah, competent authorities should have access. Whenever they ask something, manufacturer should be able to provide them. Okay, and that too free of cost. Next, seventh, comply with UDI obligations. They have to register in the UDOMED. Keep technical documents, EU DOC, as I said, 10 years and 15 years for implantable devices. Then make available the entire technical document or summary when asked by competent authorities. Ensure each authorized representative has necessary documentation permanently available. Manufacturer has to make sure that their authorized representative have all those documents, which is can be asked by competent authority anytime. They are the basic ones which we discussed here in the custom-made device manufacturers requirements. Okay, that is 6.1. So next, 11th, ensure that procedures are in place, like things like changes in device design, device characteristics. Whenever updates are happening in terms of device manufacturing, like a design or any complaints or any standard is being updated, they have to make sure all the procedures are up to date. They are not outdated. If ISO standard, QMS standard new version has come, they have to make sure all the new requirements are being fulfilled in their processes, which is already established. Okay. Next, 12th, maintain a proper QMS. You can read it afterwards. What are the QMS requirements in Mdr, which is covering, which is like the ISO 13485. If you accept that, Mdr also automatically will be fulfilling. Maintain a PMS system. Labeling devices properly, it is a responsibility of the manufacturer as per section 23, chapter 3 of Annex 1. Okay, take immediately necessary CAPA actions for non-conformity and inform other economic operators also where devices present a serious risk. Directly tell the competent authority. This is a responsibility of the manufacturer. Maintain a system of records and reporting incidents of field safety corrective actions, FSCA. 17th, should have measures in place to provide sufficient financial coverage if any something happens. So this is the amount we have to give. That is called that is that point mentioning. 18th, so that yellow fonts means legacy devices also have to follow that. Okay, white it's only for normal manufacturers, not legacy device, and no other economic operators has to follow that it means. Okay, 18th, whenever a competent authority requests in manufacturer to provide some information to give a sample of the device, without hesitation they should give, or if it is impossible because the device is so big, they can give access to the system. Okay, so if the device is designed or manufactured by another party other than the manufacturer, their information should also be mentioned in the information submitted to the competent authority, not in the labeling. Okay, and appoint a PRRC, very famous one. Now, the important note here is PRRC role may be shared between several persons. PRRC, person responsible for regulatory compliance, can be more than one person. Okay, he also, okay, so the PRRC for the manufacturer and the authorized representative cannot be the same person. There should be a PRRC for manufacturer as well as the authorized person, but both of them cannot have common PRRC because of conflict of interest. Okay, how we can say conflict of interest? For example, manufacturer's objective is supplying their device more and more into the market. That is their objective. More demand is needed. But authorized representatives' objective is regulatory compliance. They just seek compliance. They do not have any interest of supply. But manufacturer has the intent of supply. Both have different interest. So that is the conflict. Okay. So therefore, both should have different PRRCs. And that PRRC qualification must be proven. Yeah, what is the requirement for PRRC? We all know. As per Article 15, it tells about that you should have so and so experience, so and so educational background and all. Okay, next. These are the responsibilities of authorized representative. For that, first we have to make sure, realize the power of an authorized representative. Okay, so as you all know by now, that when the manufacturer of the device is not established in a member state, the manufacturer designates a role sole authorized representative by taking a mandate, an agreement, a written agreement. Okay, this mandate is only valid when accepted in writing by the authorized representative and shall be effective at least for all the devices of the same generic device groups. Okay, so power of authorized representative. Historically, many manufacturers see the authorized representative as a communication channel with authorities, but certainly not as just as a party that has anything to say about manufacturers' compliance to regulation. They only their duty is to deal with the government. But now it is not like that. The authorized representative is someone who keeps an eye on the manufacturer's compliance with the regulation as well as reports to the government, that is competent authority of that member state. So that is a difference. That is a power now the authorized representatives have got. So that is why the authorized representative is called a little notified body. And indeed, remembering the introduction of the MDD in 1998, some notified bodies indeed only verified that at that time the technical documentation was drawn up. A clear requirement of authorized representative today is very well known to us now. Okay, so for example, this applies as well as for a subsidiary, that a subsidiary would have to terminate the mandate with the mother company if they're not following the rules. Simple. Now coming to the requirements, only 8 requirements are there. Verify the manufacturer's declaration of conformity, technical documentation is present or not. Keep available a copy of that document for 10 to 15 years based on whether it is a device or implantable device. Then do their registration obligations as per the regulation, and also make sure manufacturer has complied with registration obligations. So whenever competent authority asks for some information, even the authorized representative should be open enough to provide samples or any document for free. Cooperate with the competent authorities for CAPA to mitigate for risk posed by the devices. Immediately inform the manufacturer if some suspicious incident happens related to the device, and the complaints can be coming from healthcare information or the user. They have to inform the manufacturer. And if the manufacturer does not, in spite the authorized representatives multiple times saying to comply with the activities, if they are still not obliging, they can directly inform the competent authority and can terminate their agreement with the manufacturer. That is the power the authorized representative have. Next, it is the importer. Now importer, they shall place, okay, I'll just zoom it. They shall place on the union market only those devices that are in conformity with the regulation. So what they have to verify, importer, they have to verify DOC, CE mark, label and IFU are present, and as they are as per regulation, UDI is assigned by the manufacturer, and they have to manufacture and authorized representative are identifiable and they are designated properly. That are the verification things they have to make sure. Import until it feels the device is not in conformity with the regulation shall not be put into market until the manufacturer and AR is in conformity with the import regulatory requirements. Until importer feels they are not, he can just stop it. He can't, you will not allow the device to be put into the Europe. So if any serious risk happens, they have to inform to the competent authorities, even manufacturer also. So verify that the device is registered in UDAMED. Even importer have to register in UDAMED saying that I am the importer for this device. Okay. So add the details in the UDAMED registration. Maintain a record for complaints of non-conformity, recalls and withdrawal. Okay. Provide all the others economic operators any information requested by them. As I said before, common for all these are this cream color are common. We have already read before. Yellow fonts, these are the legacy devices. So there is nothing new other than having a complaint of registry. Next, they shall coming to distributor. Distributor also, apart from this white patch, all the other are being covered in all other economic operator responsibilities. What they have to verify, apart from this distributor has new addition, apart from the verification requirements for the, as I said, for importer. Okay, that is for imported device, the importer has indicated on the device on packaging or in a document with the device their name, trademark, place of business, address, when they can be contacted. Okay, the importer information on the labeling is there or not, they have to verify. This is a new thing added in this economic operator party. For other same, like in this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they are yellow font. All these are for legacy devices. They shall cooperate with competent authority when asked about actions taken to eliminate the risk posed by the device when placed on the market. Now there are timelines, important timelines. As per Article 30 of EU Mdr, within 2 weeks of placing a device on the market, other than the custom-made device, importer shall verify the manufacturer or authorized representative have provided their information in the UDAMED within 2 weeks of placing on the device. If they are not, then the distributor, importer has to inform the authorized representative and manufacturer to just register in UDAMED. So this is like a friends, like they are all in the supply chain, they are like friends. If one is in non-compliant, they make sure the other is in compliant and make the non-compliant person compliant. This is how things are in Mdr EU regime. Okay, so importers shall add their details in their relevant entries. Now is the interesting part. Till now here it was theoretical. Now we will go into case studies, special scenarios, right? Let's be attentive here. It is not boring. Any legal person who reprocesses a single-use device to make it suitable for further use within the union shall be considered to be a manufacturer, and so has to oblige to all the obligations of manufacturer as per Mdr. So their name and address will appear on labels in IFU. Okay. So reprocessing and repackaging parties can be called as a manufacturer when they reprocess. Apart from manufacturers' own interest, they are doing it for themselves. So reprocessing and further use of that single use may only take place when permitted by the member state national law. This means few member states only permit such reprocessing. So first manufacturer has to verify that a new party has to verify whether this device can be reprocessed, and if yes, then I can reprocess it and I can be called as a manufacturer by myself because I want to do a business. Okay, the commission shall by 2024 May 27 will draw a report on how this reprocessing of single-use device will take place and how they have to submit to European regulation, European competent authority. All this, there is no well-defined structure or guideline anywhere now. So that will be released by 2024. So that is an update. So for anyone who is in this audience working in labeling, this point is important that for a reprocessed device, the name and address of the manufacturer of the original single-use device will not appear on the label, but shall be mentioned in the IFU of the reprocessed device, right? It's a very important point in Mdr and Ipdf. Just remember it. Okay, for reprocessed device, the original manufacturer name and address related information. Okay, now question arises: can the importer or distributor provide additional information concerning the batch number while performing relabeling or repackaging activities because it is reprocessed? So the answer is the manufacturer's batch number cannot be changed and should appear on the label. However, additional information can be provided by the importer or the distributor for clarity. Example, sublot number of the relabeled or repackaged device or other information which ensures the traceability of that device is not gone. Subcategory can be added to that, but the original one cannot be removed. Okay. Next. Cases in which obligations of manufacturers apply to importer, distributor, other person. This is Article 60 exclusive slide. So, make devices available in the market under its name, registered trade name or trademark in conditions where a distributor or importer enters into agreement. Enters into agreement with the manufacturer where manufacturer information is there on the label, then they are responsible to meet certain obligations which are placed on the market, including the relevant due date obligations. So if they are being given apart from the mandatory, mandate provided by the manufacturer to, there is an agreement to authorized representative is the minimal important necessary requirement as per Mdr. But an agreement between manufacturer and other parties apart from authorized representative is not necessary, but it makes sure the manufacturer, it is a proof that yes, these are the responsibilities I expect from this party. Apart from the normal obligations, that agreement also takes place. If that happens, that means the obligations of the manufacturer are transferred to the other parties. Okay, so that time, so this means that those economic operators must also apply for registration as a manufacturer, receive a single registration number and apply for conformity assessment procedures like an individual manufacturer and provide UDR product registration. So any person assemble for an individual patient a device already in market without changing its intended purpose will not be having a manufacturer obligation. This is another scenario where if a person assembles for an individual patient a device which was just already present in the market and the intended purpose is not changing, then that person or that party will not called as manufacturer. If changes in the intended purpose happens for the device which was already placed because of that one party, that becomes a manufacturer. Then they have to oblige to manufacturer obligations. And now we will say what are the changes which can be called as a real change for to be called as a manufacturer. Okay, so that, for example, with things that are not considered as changes, what are those? And changes the device already placed on the market or put into service in such a way that compliance with applicable requirements is not affected. The 2.3 mentions about these cannot be called as manufacturer. 2.1.1 in the right, you can see these are the changes which, like doing translation of the IFU, adding further information into the device which has to be marketed. Because the EU member state has the local requirement, change in pack size term or outer packaging changes. These are all necessary requirements for marketing of the device, as we have read in the definitions. These are not the real changes for which, by doing which we can't consider those parties as manufacturer. Okay, so for above two roles, the importer and distributor will have to maintain the QMS. If you're doing those activities as an importer distributor, you have to have a QMS for those processes. Okay, that is very important point. Next, contract with any economic operator for distributor or importer is purchasing the device from should ensure that the distributor importer is informed in a timely manner about any corrective actions taken by the manufacturer, because they are doing translation, they are doing pack size changes or repackaging because of language requirements and many regional requirements for labeling and all. Now here you find the significance of labeling part in a regulatory affairs for medical device. You people is realizing now, might be. So these are the things. Okay, so the manufacturer has to inform these other parties because they have to be updated with the changes which manufacturer is doing. So they are like friends. They have to be in touch always. In addition, the contract between the notified body and the distributor or importer should specify the possibility of the notified body to perform on-site audits at the premises of the distributor, importer, or the subcontractors if needed. Yes, that is like if that is a contract between the notified body and the distributor and the importer. Okay, this is an important point. Don't forget. This one, do the manufacturer and competent authority have to be notified each time an individual device or batch of devices being relabeled or repackaged? Okay, so this question, why this question came first of all? Because in our blue guide, they're saying that you need to verify each and every device individually. Does that mean you have to see every box? So for that, this is the question. I was here, I think. Yeah. This is completed. So there is no specific requirements in the regulation. However, it is considered that a notification to the manufacturer and a relevant competent authority is of the member state where the repackaging or relabeling of the device is intended to should be made available. It is only due when a device is going to be relabeled or repackaged for the first time. Okay, not every individual device you have to tell the competent authority. So the notification does not have to be repeated unit on unit basis or batch on batch device. Okay, so the activities were mentioned in this 2.1.1, 2.1.2 about all these are performed by means and under conditions that is no way compromise the readability of the UDI carrier. That barcode, because of these, the UDI carrier should not be skipped. It should be prominent enough for the tracking purpose. As per this guidance document, they are saying. So in addition to the important distributor shall inform the manufacturer and the competent authorities of the member state about their relabeling and repackaging or any other translated label or IFF of the device, and provide that mock samples to them. At the same time, submit the competent authority a certificate issued by notified body plus their QMS, which is established. If they are doing these two functions, they have to follow this. Next, third point of the special condition is the system or procedure pack shall be treated as a device in its own right and subject to relevant conformity assessment procedure, and that person is obliged to manufacture responsibilities when they are obliged to manufacture responsibilities where the system or procedure pack incorporates devices which do not bear CE marking. Then they are obliged where the chosen combination of device is not as per the original intended purpose. For example, X system of device and Y system of device, two are there. X system by originally from the manufacturer was been made for some intended purpose, but some other party came, used X system's few parts and to use it for some, making it to some other intended purpose. Then that party itself becomes a complete different manufacturer. So intended purpose changes. If they, in spite of using the same system, still they become a new manufacturer. Where the sterilization is not carried out as per manufacturer's instruction. For example, if a manufacturer is there, they provide a device or a system, anything into the market, but they use gamma radiation. However, a third party is there, they use it. This is suppose a single-use device. If they use it and they reprocess it and do sterilization by doing steam sterilization or some other sterilization, can they be called as economic operator? That is a question. For this point, I am trying to explain. Yes, they have. The answer is yes. They have to show to the notified body the separate QMS. They have to oblige to a whole new set of manufacturer obligations of Article 10 because they have changed the method of sterilization. Okay, so that is the thing. So scenario, all the above do not apply in case where a health, see all the above means 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. For these do not apply in cases where a health institution or hospital splits up a large pack of device which they have been received into smaller pack sizes or individual units for use or circulation within the health institution. In this example, the activities are not performed in order to market the device in the relevant member state. And therefore, that is not within the scope. All these points which I mentioned, these applies to legacy device as well. So since class 1 devices and class A IVDs are not explicitly exempted, apply also in case of repackaging or relabeling of those devices as well. So all these scenarios where these people become economic operators, where it cannot will apply to legacy device, class 1 or class A of IVD Mdr also. Okay. Now question is, do entities carrying out relabeling and or repackaging activities of the regulation have any obligation related to traceability, even to obligation to UDI? Yes, of course. They are becoming importers or distributors. Any economic operators they are becoming, they have, as we have read before, the obligations everywhere. You have to register into UDI, you have to ensure traceability of the devices mentioned, means yes, they have to be obliged to that aspect as well. Now, who controls the economic operators? All the made and repackaging and reintegrating system, those other extra two parties. Who control all these people? By now, you all know it is the competent authority, right? That binds them all because it is responsible for enforcement of the Mdr. All of the economic operators needs to answer the competent authority. So, like at the same, now if we say, at the same time, these parties have interdependencies with each other. For example, the authorized representative have mandate from the manufacturer. How the manufacturer will control the authorized representative, partially that way. On the other hand, the authorized representative have responsibilities because he must monitor the compliance of the manufacturer. So he will control the manufacturer in that way. So importer has obligations to do the things which we discussed before elaborately. So does the distributor. Can you see the interlink? That's how the system of the MDR is set up, except when these are entities that are included in scope of manufacturer's quality system. That is what I'm saying. If these all activities are done under the umbrella of manufacturer, then the interlinking challenge will not be there, because they will be into their one single quality management system. Okay, so common roles and responsibilities can be made into separate common processes. So it becomes easy for big companies to do that. So for example, so that's how the system in MDR is set up. Okay, so except when these are entities that are included in scope of manufacturer's quality system, as I've said before. Now it could happen, for example, how if you have an MNC that has its own importer in the union, okay, it has its own and their own distributor now, and also does, say, for example, Article 16 operations at distributors, like a repackaging, translation of files, with that kind of stuff, okay, and does that within the scope of their single quality system, then we can say that a notified body checks this at some point, even if it is critically necessary for CE marking. So here he comes to inspection. So notified body will audit the manufacturer every year to check whether they are doing good job. Sometimes they can even perform an unannounced audit also. But for importer and distributor, oversight is based on ex post basis by competent authorities. Like only if they find suspicious that they are not doing a good job, then the competent authorities will come and they will suspect. So we have talked about manufacturer, importer, distributor, who controls them. Now let's check who controls authorized representative. Okay, so this would be partially a notified body, because Article 11 should be a part of the scope of authorized representative mandate and should be part of the manufacturer's quality system. So basically how it interacts with the authorized representative. But enforcement wise, it's the competent authority in the member state in which the authorized representative is established. And what you typically see is that, for example, in Netherlands, this was the scenario given by the RAPS member, who is a regulatory person in Netherlands for the companies there. Okay, so he gave this example because he is from Netherlands. So he said that in example in Netherlands, the competent authorities, the healthcare inspector really likes it when you have got authorized representative that have lot of manufacturers, so that they keep them informed, whom the competent authority, those authorized representative, inform them that we are doing these activities, how they are doing, how they're implementing the MDR. So the authorities know what they're dealing with, okay, and also have an idea whether they can actually trust this party to do a good job or not, because they are in the same regional area, and because of so many queries, they definitely will know each other. So this way, the authorized representatives and other parties are entangled. Okay, so next we come to, does a good connection question between those distributors and competent authorities should be done proactively, or you have to wait that you have a problem to call a competent authority? Yes, it depends. With authorized representative, for example, just like competent authority, you are working with applying regulatory criteria, and sometimes these authorized representatives have questions that they want to ask competent authorities. So, and if they have, they can also ask the other parties also, because they are into the same supply chain. So what you normally see is that these kind of economic operators already have quite good working relationship. So distributors much less, especially in countries where distributors are not licensed by authorities for the activity. And then you typically get situation where there's a vigilance issue between, it turns out that the device has been sterility issue that are caused by the way the device was treated in the supply chain. And then the distributors have obligations to safeguard their conditions. So then the competent authorities, if there's an issue at the hospital, they will just move up the supply chain. They will look at each other's entities where the root cause is. And if the root cause is a distributor, and if they find out the distributor is not storing as per the manufacturer's recommendation, then they have a big problem. So as importer or distributor, no need to contact notified body to sell your medical device in the European market. If you are an economic operator except manufacturer located at France, for example, the only entity that should control you is the competent authority, that is ANSM for the France. Now, I will just give a good example for that later. Okay, in the QMS section here. So the relationship between QMS and economic operator, and Rishi ji has asked before about PMS and economic operators. See, PMS system has to be maintained by all the economic operators as we have seen in the regulatory requirements. Okay, so that is the answer. All of this sound should be captured in the manufacturer distributor agreements, right? Yes, these will be captured. That is what I'm saying, that manufacture as per MDR, there is only a compulsory mandate to be written in a written form between manufacturer authorized representative. But for other parties, even if they are not been in agreement, they are mentioned, if they are doing the shipping of the product from other country to Europe, automatically that action makes that party an importer, regardless of whether they are saying themselves that they are importer or not. They are already an importer as per the regulation. As per by law, they have become importer. As per the law, now they are automatically have to fulfill those obligations. So whether they nothing written is there, but the law says if you are an importer, you have to follow all this. If you are a distributor, you have to follow all this. So it is the duty of the party to realize themselves which part of the economic operator am I. Because at the end of the day, when you are executing your activities, suddenly a door is knocked by the competent authority saying you are not obliging to all these things. And if you say, I didn't knew, that is your fault, because you are doing the activities. So it is your duty to follow the responsibilities which as automatically as per law is obliged on you, because you are doing that activity. So whether it is in written form or not, it doesn't matter for importer, distributor and other two parties. But if the manufacturer shares their extra activities to these other parties, apart from which is their duty as per law, that time in that scenario agreement and a written form is needed. Because if something goes wrong, tracking of the device, questioning the root cause, finding the root cause, questioning the parties, all will happen if that written agreement is there, only for those duties which are not compulsory to be done by those parties as per the law. But if they are doing it because the manufacturer said, means you should have an agreement. So that is the answer. Hope it is a satisfactory answer. Next. So in this QMS, as per Article 10, manufacturer needs a QMS. Yes. Simple answer. For which economic operator needs a QMS? If that question is there, as per the Article 10, that is roles and responsibilities of the manufacturer, QMS needed. But for other economic activity operators, nowhere in Mdr or Ipdr it says that they must have QMS. So does that mean, once again, yeah. Yeah. So does that mean that these other parties, even if they don't have QMS, it will work? As a manufacturer by myself, can I trust a distributor who has no QMS then? That is the question. Probably not, because the Mdr, you get a lot of procedural responsibility. So always, as a regulatory person, we should tell the clients and recommend the clients to have a QMS at place. In Ireland, published by HPRA, a document called Good Distribution Practices for Medical Device. In that document, they say, as the quote, as it is, I'm reading, for the activity of distribution of medical devices, you do not need a quality system, but these things listed in the document we consider as good distribution practices. So this is something that everybody should do, they are saying. And then when we look into those points, it would say it would really makes a lot of sense for distributor that wants to be able to control all their activities adequately to implement a quality system to the level of ISO 13485. So they can actually also, and so this is clearly a quality system. So it's about controlling and demonstrating that you control these processes. So, and what you do not want as a manufacturer or an overseeing competent authority. So you said you don't have a distributor or an importer that's as to have an idea what happens in my warehouse, right? So it means it's not mandated as per Mdr, but it's a good distribution practice for distributor to have a QMS. So it is like that. Local wise it varies. So So here one question if is there. One second. So if I have a distributor, some client says, I have a distributor, and he say, as a manufacturer, the client is a manufacturer, okay? He is saying that if I have a distributor and he says, I have a QMS, but I didn't certify it. If I have a procedure, I have my manual, I have procedures to show, to detect, etc., but they're not certified. Should I still think him as a good distributor? Manufacturer is asking you. So what is the answer? So theoretically, if you say, because in Mdr nowhere mentioned that other parties should have QMS, you can say theoretically yes, but when I would want to do as an, then I will have to do as an audit. As a manufacturer, I have to do an audit on the distribution processes and will look into that, because in the Mdr, there are quite clear criteria for what the distributor must do. For example, I would like to do as a manufacturer for the distributor. I would like to see that at least as minimum requirements are there that I can be confident about that distributor, that he is a good distributor. Because even though it is their responsibility and not mine as a manufacturer, the situation will always be that if there is a problem with the product because of something that happened at the distributor, it will be the name of the manufacturer in the news, not the distributor, right? So there is your interest as a manufacturer to do this, and what you see in practice is all sort of distribution agreement of manufacturer will address related quality type obligations. So better to have an agreement. So like this. So the quote is, procedures without procedural awareness and application is still nothing. Even if you don't have a quality system, then you need to have a way to demonstrate a quality thinking, right? So that is the thing. So next, so having a QMS, it's really a warranty that distributors be serious and help manufacturer to distribute core product on the market. So that's why even a manufacturer maybe need to do audit to distributor to check they are doing good job through their procedures. So in some circumstances where you should have a QMS, if you are economic operators are clearly part of QMS of the MNC company that's own manufacturers, in that case, distribution is on the scope for your certification, and so you have no choice for that. So, okay, so when we are talking about QMS, we are not just talking about a bunch of procedures that are in a binder letter. We just say we are certifying our company because we have these documents. It's really a culture. So it's a people that have to use that to be a compliant products in the market. But also it's a warranty for the manufacturers, because if there is an issue in the market, they know there is a procedure existing to address that issue, to contact the right competent authority, etc. So that is something helping you, that they also have a process for managing problems like CAPA system. So that it means that you can help to solve the problems. So instead of having a company that has no procedure or has a weak procedure for namesake, but they are not choosing them correctly. So this is not some paper, but really to have a really understanding of those systems. So that is a conclusion of this about QMS to other parties. Now here I'll give one more example. A distributor has an obligation to safeguard a storage condition. Okay. Now let's assume that there is an incident with a medical device at the hospital. Because it was compromised during the storage, what will happen? There is a vigilance report. Root cause says the device was compromised when it arrived to the hospital, but it was not discovered. And they are angry with the hospital because hospital had acceptance procedures. And then they go to the distributor and they say, distributor, how can this happen? And the distributor says, well, we have here's our binders with procedures. And the next question after that answer is, yes, you have. But how do you apply it? How do you manage these processes? And if they say, well, yeah, we just have these papers, yeah, then of course, this is not something that they are going to get away with. This is not a right answer. So, and then the competent authority can say, okay, so you are clearly not fit to be a distributor. We close down your company. So this is how the scenario can become worse. Coming to verification of by economic operators. Now here, we have seen in the roles and responsibilities what economic operators has to verify. But apart from that, exactly what need to do. So with authorized representative, when we see it is more than under Mdr, it's like a mole in the organization of manufacturer. So, okay, in 10 minutes, it will just go away. In 10 minutes, I'll complete this slide. What happened? Okay. Okay, so these three questions I will address. That is practically what does it mean? Should they verify every box one by one? What exactly they should do to confirm that the product is correct and they can release it? Okay, so for authorized representative, it, as we said, generally Mdr has provided several systems which wipe out the quality of processes at the manufacturer end. For example, Prrc has been allotted. It makes sure regulations are in compliance. Second, obligations are being given to authorized representatives. So they have defined some specific mandate, and it's up to authorized representative to verify and to keep track whether the manufacturer meets obligation. So the quality requirements of the manufacturer have been distributed to other parties in the new economic operator regime. So it cannot terminate the manufacturer's agreement and notify notified bodies and competent authorities. Okay, so which is such a huge sanction? It's a very big power which has been provided to authorized representatives. So but it is nowhere mentioned very clear. It's just mentioned in a very generalized manner. Okay, so it says over one second. Yeah, so it says to verify the DOC technical documentation, but doesn't provide an audit schedule or audit plan, like when to, how to check all these things. Then it's for the authorized representative to do that manufacturer in view of the scope of mandate, because mandate is also very flexible with minimum obligations in there. There is no process to check whether declaration of conformity is updated or not by the manufacturer time to time. It has to be either done by the authorized representative itself, or by having a process to check, ask the manufacturer, hey man, can you tell me what is your process for updating the DOC? Will I get the updated DOC? When do you do that along with the starting DOC? So because if you don't have to after it myself, because it's my obligation to have a DOC on file. So you should see this mandate rather as to oversee compliance status. So it is that authorized representative have to be careful and really have to have a procedure behind them to check that everything is continuously correct. That's why you also need to have PRRC these days as authorized representative. Okay, so this is the thing. So please check. So this is the thing. So for distributor importer, what they should verify is interesting because the system work a bit different. So it's for distributor, it says the distributor can verify by sampling. So does that mean they can verify each and every individual product? What is the answer? So then the whole lot of confusion arises because of this. First is, can they verify one box and it's sufficient, or does that mean that the importer has to open every box or check every product specifically? And it gets only more and more complex when you look into Blue Guide. Blue Guide says, yes, placing on the market is assuming a compliance validation for each and every product individually. So does that mean that you have to open every box, right? So all these questions you get. So we can have a meaningful interpretation. What is the concept of verification? We have to know. A notified body verifies the manufacturer produces devices by CE marked types. Whether they produce them by CE mark quality system, that is also not done on a per product check basis. But they still verify it, right? Because they have a process where the CE marking signifies that they're in compliance. So also in this case, that's why you're not obliged to open every box, but rather as an importer, have a procedure that ensures that the device that you import meets the criteria. For example, for bigger companies, obviously it's easy. How they do? They have integrated customer relation management system for CRM, for example, for the whole supply chain. Because there, what you can do as an importer, for example, you can agree between a manufacturer and importer that manufacturer will not or cannot release a product into supply chain if they have ticked their boxes in the system application and product system. For example, for all the elements in Article 13, Section 2. So Article 13, we know obligations of the importer. So that means all the things are, if they're tagged in the CRM management system and SAP. So that means as an importer, you know that each product that the manufacturer releases will meet certain criteria, because otherwise CRM will not allow these products to be shipped to you. Okay. So, but if you are an independent importer, then it becomes difficult, because how are you going to control your manufacturer? Let's say for these things, we could still do quality agreement with them, for example, and then that allows you to do verification. So right as an independent importer. So it's the same thing. When you outsource the design and manufacture of your product, you would also have a quality system or a quality agreement with the company that produces for you, and you go to audit, so you can verify that what they supply to you meet the criteria that are responsible as a manufacturer. Okay, so for distributors, it's even worse, because they normally don't have such direct relationship with manufacturer, which is why they have kept sampling provisions, because distributors have less options than importer. So in having a quality agreement with the manufacturer, so they told distributors how they can sample. Okay, so these are the all the answers to this, how verification by economic operators on each other can be done. So please, I will suggest one thing is, please check the medtech flowchart on economic operator obligations, both for Mdr and Ipdr. It will look like this. It will help you in while you're going through the regulations as well as the obligations. Okay, so this is the thing. Now there is a model called import your medical device with an independent operator. How it is done? So it's generally a trust-based model. So here it's all virtual actually. If you have doubts, you can put it in chat box, or you can ask me right away. Okay, I'm just keeping on talking, so I'm getting doubt whether you are getting conveyed the right things in right way. Okay, so it's a trust-based model. So as the importer asks the manufacturer to send their virtual documents as per UMDR, they check them. After that, asks them QMS, and then they ask the same quality inspector of the manufacturer to check for importers' requirements on their behalf to the manufacturer at the warehouse itself before the product is shipped to Europe. So it feels all correct, then gives the approval to import. And if still they have doubt, they do physical inspection. It is such, so this is a new model. So importers will have to have a lot of negotiation with the manufacturer. They should have an agreement that they can inspect in any point of time if they find it doubt, or they have well established a database, like so and so batches have arrived, so have been verified, and so have been dispatched, so and so things. So so this is the critical role an importer will have to play if they are acting as an independent importer. So importer once allows into the market, their name on the packaging imported by will appear to keep track on who gave approval to the import. So as a liability, they keep track on what shipment has been verified by them. So if there is a shipment on the EU market that arrived without them knowing it, they can say it didn't go through our process. So let's say at that moment, if the distributor does the importation, that moment that distributor qualifies as an importer. Understood? So, and at that point, the distributor is liable, maybe without knowing it exactly. So very important is maintain a QMS, like having importation process, general and client specific work instructions. Next, so importer under Mdr Ipdr. So this is the thing. And so this is just go through it. I have taken this from the RAPS webinar. So places a device from third country on the EU market, then only place a device on the EU market that complies with Mdr and verifies compliance, is liable when placing non-compliant device on the market. Importer is not necessarily the person who transports the product, but can be the person on behalf of whom this logistic activities is carried out. It is as per EU Blue Guide. So no requirement for physical inspection is there, but if they want, they can do. So who qualifies as importer? EU-based legal entity of legal manufacturer, authorized representative can become an importer, distributor can, third-party logistics, independent importers. How? Let's go to next slide. So if an authorized representative becomes an importer, what are the pros and what are the cons? If third-party logistics service provider becomes importer, what is their pros and what are the cons? So if you know, as a manufacturer can decide, can I have a each economic operator as an individual, a separate person, or can I have more than one EO activities to be given to one party? So if your authorized representative is the economic, okay. So who can act as Mdr Ipdr importer? Okay, if they are authorized representative, the pros are that is a central control in the Europe because manufacturer is outside, and the core activity is solely focused on Mdr Ipdr only. They do not have to do any other activity, so it is a plus thing for manufacturer. And only one name on the device, packaging or IF will be there, so space and printing cost and all will be reduced. But the cons is conflict of interest, as I have told before, that the interest of authorized representatives, regulatory compliance, but the interest of manufacturer is more and more marketing device is being bought in the market. So that is the thing, different level of engagement will be there. Unwanted additional liabilities, no authorized representative want. They will say, Amma, I want to only watch. I don't want to do any other activities. This is practically in the case of Europe. But if you go to Switzerland, there are no such clear obligations. So even authorized representative can become an importer or distributor. So third party logistics, if they're already importing the device. Okay, so they know the network, they know the regional challenges, where which hospital they can supply the devices in the competent market. That is a benefit. But the cons are regulatory is not their core business. As I said, their core business is selling the product. More than one party involved in Mdr role is there, because distributor is not only one. Third party logistics means not one person, many. Because of that, more people, less quality, so less control. So multiple names will be there on the device, more space is consumed, and unwanted liabilities they have to make. So similarly, we have who act as Mdr Ipdf importer apart from authorized representative if they are manufacturer, importer, or distributor. So these are the pros and cons you can see here. Okay, so next I'll go directly to certain scenarios, certain questions. One last slide talks about the impact of Mdr Fdr on the distributors. So UDI tracking is new, but it is not a difficult task to be performed by the distributor, because in the MDT regime they used to maintain a tracker with the column of serial number and lot number of the device for tracking purpose. Now they have to add additional tracker of UDI. So it's not a big thing. Next, more responsible towards the products that are distributed because of the obligations which now the law has asked, and more interaction with the manufacturer when DOC's end date is near. Okay, they have to make sure more responsible towards products, and the labels and manuals should be local language provided by manufacturers. Though some distributors who translate them with their local companies, but if they do that, then will actually have all the same obligation as a manufacturer. Okay, so few distributors, they don't translate, few they do by themselves, or a few they just give it to third parties. If they give it to third parties and without the agreement with the manufacturer, then the third party is also one of the economic operator. So difficulty for distributor only one is because of less notified bodies. So quantitatively less approved CE mark devices will be there. So for distributors, products to sell will be less. So that is the only one challenge they face. And now I don't think anymore that much challenge is there, because more and more notified bodies are approved. So some practical scenarios we will see here. Total 9 questions. These are few are from MDCG guidance and few are from our own, but the answers are provided by the experts from the REPS committee by themselves, so we can trust. So can one have more than one importer in EU for third country manufacturer? If yes, what is the situation? So yes, importer is a concept that applies on per device basis. So theoretically, each individual device can have different importer, but practically it is not possible to have more than one importer for just a single device. So the legal basis for our following statement: a single device cannot have more than one importer. So follows from the blue guide clarification that placing on the market is as a per device concept. So it has to, for both the questions, that can more than one importer be there for by a manufacturer, or can one importer be enough for the manufacturer to market their product in whole European Union? For this question also, yes. More than one importer can also be there, and only one importer can also be there in for the whole European Union. But for the second part of the question, if only one importer is there for the whole European Union, the managing the by the importer for so many devices is very complicated. Managing is difficult. But for first question, because one product can practically cannot have more than one importer, so we can say yes, for defined number of quantity of devices we can have some particular number of importers from the manufacturer. All their information should be mentioned on the labels. So next question, can one manufacturer who has its products marketed in one market, for example, Germany, will they be able to market it in France by showing mutual recognition certificate to national authority of France without any problem? Or do they have to do more than that? Now, this question came to me because I was reading this regulation called 764/2008. So this is a regulatory regulation, or it's not a guidance, it is a regulation 76264/2008. It talks about the products circulation in European Union. So there they mentioned about a mutual recognition certificate one has to show. So I got that, do they need one more? So but the answer is this regulation. If you see the initial introduction page, the third recital, it states that obstacles to free movement of goods between member states may be unlawfully created if in the absence of union harmonization rules. But already harmonization rules for union for medical devices is there. So we do not need to follow this regulation first. So therefore, always before reading one guidance document or regulation, make sure whether for what you are searching for, is it applicable or not. So that regulatory guidance document were applicable for all other products like fishery, but not for device, because devices already we have harmonized regulations. Okay, so that is the answer. No mutual recognition certificate is needed to market your product in any European Union. Only you have to follow Mdr and have CE marked. How can supply chain player adhere to the rules and determine their obligation rules for doing so? They can determine this by understanding their role in the supply chain and understanding the rules. That is what all the session is all about. Finding out which part of the economic operator I am for the clients. We as a regulatory people should know. That is all the session. Placing on the market, making available for the distributor. All these concepts should be clear. I am a class 1 device company. Do I need an economic operator? This is a question because I am self-certified economic operator. The answer is yes. As per EU Mdr, all the Article 10 applies to even class 1 device. So question 5th. If a class 1 manufacturer is outside the Europe, have to hire an economic operator like an importer or distributor, they still have to have contract with them. They have to sign that this company is an economic operator of this manufacturer. So is it correct? Yes or no? The answer is both, because companies often think that they can appoint an economic operator, but that's not the way it works. There is only one economic operator that you can mandate, and that is the authorized representative, because it is as per Mdr is needed. For importer and distributor, even system integrator and procedure pack complier, those guys are all defined by the fact that they make a medical device available in the market, regardless of what you put in the contract. The answer is same as the question was before in one of our participants. They have asked. Yeah, I think Rishi has asked that we need to have an agreement with the manufacturer for all this. So the answer is same thing. So you put in contract, these are the facts, then the law would say, even if you would, for example, if you are in contact with the importer, you would say we agreed that you are an importer, but if they behave as an importer under the definition Mdr anyway, they are an importer. You do not need to have an agreement unless you have additional activities you are giving to importer. So can importer be also an authorized representative of the company? Is it something possible? So it's advisable to separate, to not have same entity, because there is a conflict of interest, which I have told already. If you are importer, you are trying also to sell more devices. So being that one that is regulating and saying that you are doing wrong, and being the one that's saying, oh, I have to sell a lot of these devices. Even if I am wrong, it's okay. So these are the conflict of interest. Next. This is the last slide of the questions, which from my end is next we'll go to our brainstorming discussion of 3 case studies. Is it problem of the manufacturer that they are really identified, or it's the authorities which has to make the case? Or do you have something to do with that, which are importer, etc.? No, not necessarily, because in the MDR, each economic operator have their own obligations and responsibilities. So these responsibilities apply toward competent authorities. If they don't meet these obligations, they can be enforced against. But what is new about EU economic operator regime is that there is so many links that the law makes between different economic operators, as we have discussed before. So, for example, there is a serious risk with the non-compliance of medical device. The distributor needs to report the authorized representative, manufacturer, and competent authority. And for that, of course, very conveniently that you have contract with the distributor. So the distributor knows who to inform about something, what they will tell you, and things like that. For example, the distributor need to have a register of complaints that he must give access to the manufacturer. So it's nice that you have a contract that tells how the access or to the register of complaints will work. So this is the answer. So next question, does an economic operator, European Union based distributor become an importer if it obtains its products directly from non-EU based manufacturer or distributor? Yes, obviously, because it is doing the action of importing. Okay, so answer is yes. So can individual shops, community pharmacies, retailers, or other persons be considered as distributors? So yes, a distributor is any natural or legal person in the supply chain other than the manufacturer or importer that makes a device available on the market up until the point of putting into service. As such, individual shops, pharmacies, or retailers or other natural legal persons meeting this definition. Furthermore, these operators will assume the role responsibilities of import if they obtain the device directly from a non-EU based manufacturer or distributor and are expected to comply with Article 13 of the regulation. So this is still from my end. These are the questions. So now coming to case studies, now you guys have to be involved because for till now I was talking. I also want to know how much you have understood, right? Case study 1. Determining the importer when the physical operation, example transportation or storage, or placing the device on the market is subcontracted. So you have to tell whether this is the importer or not. You guys tell. Again, I'm saying determining the importer when the physical operation, example transportation or storage, of placing the device market is subcontracted. Guys, are you listening?
Yes, we are here.
Okay, so I'll just give answer to this one because so that you get warm up of how this works. Okay, so for entity X, okay, it has taken a contract of sale with a third country manufacturer to import products into the union. So therefore, it is under logistics contract with entity Y to physically transport the products to the union market to provide short-term storage activities, because they are saying no example transportation or storage. Okay, so in this case, the entity Y acts like a subcontractor of entity X, performing the logistics to enable the placing on the market of products. So entity X is considered the importer responsible for compliance of the Article 13, that is obligations of importer of this regulation. So the answer is yes. Next, case study 2. A manufacturer M, okay, established in the union has a manufacturing facility in a third country. In a third country, manufacturing facility is there. So can the manufacturer send devices directly to the European based distributor, that is Z, without Z becoming an importer? Please, guys, you can discuss.
So manufacturer wants to send it to EU-based distributor.
Yes.
Distributor.
The manufacturer is from European Union. Okay.
Okay,
And
manufacturers from the European Union.
European
Yeah, okay.
Union and has a manufacturing facility not in the Europe, but outside the Europe. So now he says, I want to give this device, put the device into the market through distributors, which are based in the Europe. So that does that mean that those distributors becomes importer? Can Z become an importer? That is a
So
question.
in that instance, I think that yes, the distributor will then become the importer unless the distributors have an agreement with another third party type company that to do that
Correct.
task for them.
Yeah, you understood the concept. Yes. So I'll just describe it more. Yes, if the manufacturer is established in the union, but its devices are produced at its manufacturing site located outside the union, the manufacturer is considered the entity placing the product on the union market, even if the actual importation of the product is done by another company. So in this case, because manufacturer is established in the union, there is no importer within the importer's definition under the regulation, and Z is acting as a distributor. So here the answer is because the manufacturer is in the Europe itself, there is no point of importation. Like in this scenario, we can say distributor is importer, but because he is in the Europe and the devices he's giving, the manufacturing is done in the different place, it is coming into the Europe under his supervision only from the same distributor. So there is, if the clear concept is, if a manufacturer is in the Europe, the supply chain works like this: manufacturer, distributor, end user, or manufacturer to end user. If the manufacturer is outside the Europe, the supply chain will work as manufacturer, importer, distributor, end user. Simple, right? Now we have case study 3. Just listen carefully. The question: entity X physically brings medical devices manufactured in a third country into the union. Okay. However, the devices are not placed in the union market. That is only example, only it is for transit and are supplied directly to a third country distributor, entity Y. A legal transfer of ownership has taken place between entity X and entity Y. Entity Y supplies a device to a distributor in the European Union called entity Z, and the devices are placed on the union market for the first time. Is entity X considered importer even though they are not placing the device on the union market, or entity Z is considered the importer?
Both.
What is the answer? Entity Y. Entity Z. Okay. So what is the logic you are placing? Can you tell our viewers?
Because the distributor is in the European Union.
Just remember the definition of the economic operators. There the answer is.
Z is a distributor, so entity Y is an importer. So they become a subcontractor, right? They are just importing the device, right? Is that?
So the female voice said the correct answer. Who was that?
Vaishnavi.
Vaishnavi, yes. So the answer is yes, Z is the person, because see, I'll describe. So as entity X, despite bringing the device into the union, never placed the device, no, or made them available on the union market. They are not acting as importer for those devices. Instead, entity Z will undertake the roles and responsibilities of importer if they place the device on the union market. That is, perform the first making available. Who is making available on the first time in the market actually? So that is entity Z. Adapting the lines of transfer of legal property of the goods could be means of limiting the number of economic European Union importers. So the physically goods could go from third country manufacturer to distributor Z and may physically transit the third country. So therefore entity Z becomes an importer. So that is the answer. Very good, Vaishnavi. I'm very happy.
Thank you.
So, so see how this the concept of economic operator when these cases come up will happen. Okay, if we know the concept very nicely, we can justify to our clients like, see, you comes under this category, so you will be this. So next is any questions from your end?
No, the session was very nice, very informative.
Okay, you were there from starting, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, then yes, thank you. So next is this same session I took for our my organization in which I am working. So there few of the people, if one person asked all these 3 questions. I want you guys to be also aware of all this because maybe in future you come across same scenarios. So, and as I said before, this to clear this concept, it took me 1.5 months. So it's not an easy time, and I want everyone in the because everyone can't take that much time or put that much effort into one concept because of time lacking or not requirement, but maybe required in the future. I may also don't know some different topics. So by sharing like this, we can develop our professional way as well as we can satisfy clients also. So this was the main intent of this session. So let's go to 3 questions which were asked to me in previous session and for the same topic. If a hospital is using a single-use device and they are reprocessing after using that, what are their liabilities? So note, they are just buying the product from the manufacturer. They are not in agreement with the manufacturer for reprocessing their device. So the answer is, first they clearly mentioned they are not they're just buying from the manufacturer. They do not have any agreement with the manufacturer to reprocess. They're reprocessing because of their interest of reusing them. Okay, and they're so they become an individual economic operator by themselves because they are doing this independent of the manufacturer for their sole purpose of doing their business for themselves at the hospital. Okay, so they are manufacturer in one own sense. They become an economic operator. So they have to oblige to Article 10 whole steps, whole roles and responsibilities. Next question. If a hospital is using a single-use device and they are reprocessing and using a method of steam sterilization, so note manufacturer used the gamma radiation method to sterilize. So what are their liabilities? So if a hospital is used a single-use device and then they reprocessed it with a method of steam sterilization, but the sterilization method for by manufacturer was gamma sterilization. So they have to what will they be considered? First, they have to prove to the competent authorities, the notified bodies, with whole QMS system in place for reprocessing and repackaging or whatever process they are doing a new way, though the intended purpose was same, but the method was different. Because if anything happens, it should the original manufacturer should not be blamed because they don't have agreement with you. So they become an independent manufacturer itself because the method of sterilization was different. The meeting will end in 10 minutes and this is the last question. Regarding sterilization site, when can be called as economic operator? For example, manufacturer third-party sterilization site is being used. Okay, the product is later taken in by manufacturer and sent to market. So how the sterilization site can be called as economic operator? So the answer is very simple. All the service providers are not the economic operators. So if they're providing service to the manufacturer on their behalf, they cannot be considered as economic operators. So if they don't have any agreement with the manufacturer, then that sterilization site can act as one of the economic operators based on what all activities other than sterilization they are doing, or they become the fourth party, that is sterilization of system or packaging party. Okay, so these are the 3 questions which were asked to me before. So I hope all are very well now known 360-degree angle of economic operators, how the economic operator regime in Mdr Ipdf goes. So in my next session, I will be talking about economic operators of especially PRRCs of Brexit. Already Mr. Rishi has taken that. I may try more. So that's it from my end. Thank you, guys.